Hi, welcome back to Christine's Home Affairs. I have a quick little project today, and it's just going to be a zippered pouch with box corners at the top but curved bottom underneath. I'd like to see how these bags differ when you have different shaped curves at the bottom. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to make a couple of these bags with two different sized darts or curves at the bottom of the bag. Plain colour on the back, printed on the front, and fully lined with no bindings in sight. Let's get to it. Okay, I'm going to be making this bag twice because I want two different sized corners or darts. I'm starting off with exactly the same size fabric for each of them. What I have here is one piece of fabric for the front of the bag, and then I have another piece for the back of the bag. These are pieces I've had cut out from a previous project, and I have two pieces of fabric for the lining, and then we also want some fusible fleece or some kind of stabilizer for the back of our outer fabric. The product I'm using is called Parlan. It's a really lightweight fusible. You can use Pallan, whatever you like really. And we also need a zip. The plan for these is to have a boxed corner at the top where the zip is and a curved bottom down here. Using the same size piece of fabric for both of these bags, I'm going to see what the outcome is when I have different sized darts on the curves at the bottom of the pouches. So I've set one aside. To start, what you'll need to do is iron some stabilizer to the back of your outer fabric. For the back of my bag, I'm using a plain, and for the front, I'm using this really cute printed fabric. And these are my lining pieces. I'll set those aside for the moment. If you haven't already done so, go and fuse your stabilizer to the back and front pieces. And then what we can do, we'll use this one because it's easier to see. For the first one, I'm going to have a curve at the bottom that starts 2 inches from the bottom, or 5 centimeters, and out at the side. So I'll do 2 inches on both sides. And I'm also going to mark 2 inches from the corner out that way. If you've got a ruler that has a 45-degree line like this, then you can place that line onto one edge of your fabric, and I've got 2 inches measured from the corner out. From that point out here is 2 inches. If you don't have anything with a 45-degree angle, all you need to do is place the two sides together until your fabric comes up to a point, and then you can measure that 2 inches and make a mark. And we'll do the same for the other side. So I've got my 45-degree angle lined up. The point of the fabric is at the 2-inch mark, and then I can just make a little mark here. Now that we have the 5 centimeters or the 2 inches marked along here, we're going to halve that, and that will be 1 inch or 2.5 centimeters. And although this seems a little bit complicated, this is just an easy way of working out how to get the darts for your pouches. So whatever you have on the side here and here, you halve that distance and make a mark. So if we had 3 inches, we would make this 1.5 inches along here. From this center point here, we're going to mark a line going out to the halfway mark, and we'll do the same over here. So there's our cutout for the dart. We'll measure that 1 inch or 2.5 centimeters again, and we can draw in that dart. Now we need something with a curved edge to shape the bottom of our bag. You can buy these circle templates. They all fit in together nicely like this, but they're great for marking out the curves on your bags. So I'll just find one that will suit my measurements. So this one is a 4-inch circle template, and given that I've got 2 inches on the side, those lines will mark up nicely there, Makes it a little bit easier. You don't have to go and find plates to match. We'll mark a curve on both sides. So I'm going to place all of my fabric pieces together. I'll have that one faced down, and I'll place my lining pieces underneath. And I'll secure these edges together so that I can cut this out all in one go. This one here is using the 2-inch curve, and we might as well work on this one as well. So for this one, I think I will measure a 1.5-inch curve, which is just under 4 centimetres. And if you're using metric, then I would just use the 4 centimetres as a measurement. And again, I'll use my 45-degree line. And this time I'm going to place it at 1.5 inches in, or that 4 centimetres. Or like I said before, you can just fold the sides in and then make a mark. We've got 1.5 inches or 4 centimetres. We need to halve that, and that will be 3/4 of an inch or 2 centimetres. Make a little mark on the side. And I can grab another circle template and we can mark those curves as well. I'll secure all of these edges together too. I almost forgot to make those little darts. From that mark here out to the halfway mark, we'll mark that line. So we have 2 different sized darts. Fabric pieces are the same to begin with. Let's see what happens. I'll cut all the layers out. And then we can cut out our darts. Now I did mention I wanted to have box corners at the top, so we're going to cut those out as well. Because I want to see what the difference is between these two, I'm going to keep the box corners the same at the top. From the outside edge, I'm going to measure 2 centimetres or 3/4 of an inch on both sides. And from the top edge, I'm going to measure 1 centimetre or 3/8 of an inch. And this is to allow for the width of my zipper. We'll do the same on this side. Let's cut out those corners. Now that everything's been cut out, we're ready to put our zips in. I'm going to put some labels on these because I'll end up selling them in the shop. Okay, the labels are done. Let's do the zips. It doesn't matter which bag you work with now because the process for both of them is going to be exactly the same. So this being the front of my bag, I want the zipper head to be opening from left to right. If you don't have access to double-sided tape, just use pins or clips, but this is one of my favourite things to use. I'll run some tape along the top edge, remove the paper, and then I'm going to place my zip with the right side faced down over that top edge. I don't like metal bits in my zips, and I will be cutting this off shortly. So where that metal bar is, I'm just going to line that up on the edge of my fabric. And then I can line up the rest of the zip. And that's got a little tail at the end there, which we will chop off later. I'll run another strip of tape over the top of that. And then we'll take our lining fabric and we'll place that with the printed sides or the right sides facing. Line up the side edges and then the top. So I have both bags ready to go to the machine now. We'll sew along this top edge here. I like to stitch with the stabilised side up, and we'll sew along there. Once we've done that, open the fabric out, bring the lining to the back, and we can top stitch. If the zipper head is in the way, just slide that open and continue on. Press your fabric away from the zip, and I'll start top stitching where the side edge is for the box corners. Alright, let's put the other side on. So I'll grab the back of the fabric and I'll put that double-sided tape over the top again. And if you're working on a couple of different size corners here, just make sure you do have the right size that you're putting together. You'd hate to get that mixed up. And we're going to line up the side edges of our fabric once again, and then slide the zipper tape up to the top of the fabric. And this way you don't have to worry about measuring the centers of your zips or your fabric. Just saves a little bit of time. So with your fabric lined up along there, we can attach another bit of tape and then place the lining together as well. So if this were printed, you would have the printed sides facing each other. And once again, I'll line up those sides and then the top. And again, I will sew with the stabilised fabric faced up. Now when I'm sewing, I'm using a really narrow foot for inserting the zips. And if I just press down here, you can actually see the ridge forming from the zipper teeth. And using the edge of the zipper foot, I run that as close to that ridge as I can get. So we can take both of those back to the machine, sew the zip in place, open it out, and then top stitch again. And you might just want to move that zipper head out of the way. So this is that ridge I was talking about. I'm not sure that you can see the shadowing there, but the edge of my foot will run right along the edge of that. And then I can just bring the two pieces together and top stitch. Okay, the zips have been installed. Before we go on to the next step, I did forget to mention that we need to have some fabric for tabs to put on the top of our bag. If you don't want tabs, that's fine, you don't have to have them at all. I've got a couple of scraps of fabric left over, 2 inches wide. For each tab you'll need about 2 inches in length or 5 centimetres. So I'm going to put a different coloured tab on each side of the bag, fold the fabric in half. This has been stabilised, but you don't really need to do that. It's just that I'd stabilised an entire piece of fabric, so I might as well use it as is. Fold the raw edges into the centre and then fold that in half. And that is going to be really bulky, so I'm going to remove that stabiliser. To remove the stabiliser, you just need to go and reheat the fabric with the iron, find the corner and separate that. And then rip it off like a band-aid. And we can go and iron that. So all you'll need to do is fold the fabric in half lengthwise, bring the raw edges into the centre, fold that over again, iron it, and we'll take both of these to the machine and sew down both long edges. Okay, if you're just using one colour tab, then just fold the fabric in half and cut it into two 2-inch pieces. I'm going to use one of each colour. So you'll fold the tab in half and we're going to place it onto the end of the zipper where we've got our box corners cut out. So if you have a look underneath here, we've got the little cutout just along here, which was 2 centimetres from the outside edge, and on this side as well. And I'm measuring from the edge of the fabric, not the edge of the zip. So this is where the cutout is. Because we've got this open, we want to keep it nice and secure so that we can put our tabs on. I've got a couple of bits of adhesive tape, and what I like to do is just bring the teeth together, run some tape along the edge of the zip and secure that in place. I'll hold this side together as well. And we can take our tab and place that over this marked line that we have here. I don't want to cut this off just yet, and since I can't get in with the clips, I'm just going to stick this down. We'll do the same with the tab on the other side, and we're going to sew that in place. So double check that you've got your lining sitting behind the back and front pieces. Alright, let's remove all those bits of tape. At this point you want to make sure that your zip is at least part way open. Now we can work on our darts. So we're going to bring this side edge and the bottom edge together. And these two straight edges can be clipped together. So as long as you line up your straight edges along here, this should line up at the bottom. We'll do the same on the other side, and we'll do this for all 4 curves on the lining and the outer section of our bag. So it's a little bit more work than what you would do in a normal boxed bag, but sometimes it's nice just to have a different shape at the bottom. Our darts are all ready. We just need to sew straight across here with a back stitch at the beginning and the end. We don't want these edges to unravel. I'm using a 1 centimetre seam allowance. Alright, all those curves have been done, and you can see how that gives a really nice shape to the bag. Believe it or not, we're almost finished. We need to trim off the excess zipper tape underneath the tab. You'll see I've made a mark here. This is where the box corners were cut out on the fabric at the beginning. So all I need to do is trim off the zipper tape. I don't need to cut any fabric, just the zip. So you can move all those layers out of the way and cut straight across there. And you can see we have our box corner back. So just peel that fabric back out of the way. All right, doesn't matter which bag we use. Double check that your zip's open. We can take our outer fabric and we're going to line up the corners that we have at the bottom, and I'm going to have them going in opposing directions. So this one here will go to my left, this seam here will go to the right, and that will lock those seams in, but it will also give you a really nice alignment of that dart along the bottom edge. Clip that in place, and you'll do the same for the remainder of the darts on the lining and on your outer fabric. Doesn't matter whether they go left or right, it's whatever's comfortable for you. So this is the bottom edge of the outer fabric. Line all of those edges up along the side as well. And for the lining, we're going to line up those darts first. I've just sewn my darts the wrong way around. This is what happens when you use plain fabric. All right, I fixed that bottom dart. That's much better. So for the lining, we want the darts in opposing directions again. Okay, so that's all ready. Now on the lining, we need to leave an opening for turning through. Normally you would leave an opening along the bottom edge. It is a lot easier because you can leave a much wider opening. Because I just top stitched my openings closed, they do actually look nicer if they're on the side seam. That way you don't see them. So if you want to have your opening at the bottom, go ahead and do that. I'm going to have mine on one of the sides, so I'll sew the side seam, I'll come down 1 or 2 inches, I'll leave an opening of about 3 fingers width, and then I'll start again here with a back stitch and continue on around to the other side. But if you want your opening at the bottom, start at the side, come around, stop here with a back stitch, continue again, and continue on to the end. For the outer fabric, you'll just sew all the way around. When you get to the curve, go nice and slowly. I'll start off with the outer fabric first, and I'm still using my 1 centimetre seam allowance. You want to back stitch really well here, because that's where you'll be boxing the corners at the top. And just hold those darts together whilst you sew nice and slowly around the curve. And for the lining, we'll do the same. If you find it's too difficult to get in at the top where the zip is, you might want to change to a zipper foot or some kind of a narrow foot. It will make it easier for you to do that 1 centimetre seam allowance. I'll back stitch here, and then I'll come forward about 3 or 4 fingers width and back stitch again, and go slowly around the curve. Okay, the last thing we need to do is box the corners at the top of our bag. And this is the most fiddly part of the project. If you haven't had much experience with making bags or sewing of any kind, rather than leaving the opening on the side, leave your opening at the bottom here and give yourself a much bigger opening to be able to turn everything the right way through. I haven't left myself with much room on the side here, but that's fine. I like a challenge. Now it's going to be much easier to box these corners if your zip is open a lot further. So one side will already be open. I've got my head in the middle somewhere. I'm going to bring it around about here. It'll make it a bit easier to manipulate. So with your back and front fabric here, just pinch that out until you can line up this little opening here so that it sits nice and flat. It's just going to be a very small opening, so it is quite fiddly. And you want this seam to line up with the centre of the zip on the other side. And you'll do the same with the lining, so I'm just going to hold that in place like that. And with this side seam as well, I want that lined up with the centre of the zip. Pinch those edges out. So what will happen is that you're going to have a taper on each side. The side seam will be in the middle where the zip is. Turn that around and double check this side. You can press that open. And once you've got those layers lined up, we can clip those edges together. And all we're going to do now is sew across here with a 1 centimetre seam allowance. And remember to double check that your zipper head isn't in the way of your stitching. This side will do the same, so just grab your outer fabric and push that out. I don't usually fold my seams open, but I will for this one, just so that you can see what's happening. This seam here will line up with the teeth of your zipper. Fold out the diagonal, hold that in place, turn around, and you'll do the same with the lining. And if you need to, you can just hold this in place on the side here whilst you get your lining sorted. Pinch those edges out, and that seam will line up with the middle of the zip. And then you can just clip all those layers together and sew it up. There will be a fair bit of bulk here. I'm going to triple stitch over that. All right, remember to go slow here. Now it's time to see how the bag turned out. You can trim off some of the excess here and double check that you have actually caught all the layers of your corners as well. Find the opening and we can pull everything through. I don't know what I was worried about. This is coming through nice and easily. With the opening, all you want to do is just pinch those edges together. For the most part, the fold will want to sit to the inside, and we can go and stitch that closed. I'll just quickly go and do that now. By having the opening on the side seam, it means that I don't have to worry about matching my colour thread too much. And once I put the fabric to the inside, nobody will ever see that seam. Poke out those darts or corners and the corners at the top, and we're done. If you have these little zipper pulls, I like to put those onto the ends of each of my bags. Some are difficult to get through, and if you do find one that's difficult, I've just got a piece of thread, feed that through the loop, bring the two ends together and feed the ends of the thread through the top of the zip and give it a tug, and that goes through nice and easily. And there we go. So let's have a look at both of them together, see if we can tell the difference. So the box corners are both the same at the top. If we have a look at the bottom of the bag, you can see that one is wider than the other one, and also the one with the smaller curves. If we line this up nice and straight, you'll see that that one is a little bit taller. It's not exactly how I wanted this to turn out. I actually would have liked this to have much bigger curve. I need to improve my skills. But it's still a cute bag, isn't it? I reckon it is. The bag turned out all right, but it's not what I had envisioned. I've been trying to figure this out for quite some time. I want to have a pouch or a bag that has the square corners at the top, but I wanted to have this more rounded at the bottom, and I haven't quite mastered that skill yet. So I'm still working that out. I think I might have to go and check out some YouTube videos and see what it is that I'm missing. I know I should be doing something at the curves to give myself a more rounded bag. This is the one that had the smaller darts. That was the larger one with the 2 inches, 1.5 inches. I said to you that I've been playing around with this for a while. I've been practicing with some other fabric as well. And this one had a very tiny dart in it, so small in fact that it ended up being just a regular boxed bag. So if you're playing around with this and you'd like the curves like I would like, don't go too small on your darts. There was another one I've done as well. This one must be a 1 inch rather than the 1.5 or 2 inches that I've shown you. Still got the box corner. It's a really adorable fabric, isn't it? So it's still got the box corners at the top, and I actually did this a little bit wider, and the curve at the bottom isn't quite curvy enough. I want something with a bit more shape. So anyway, I hope you like these bags. It's something a little bit different from the normal box corners. I'm going to go back and study up some more and see how I can get a really nice curved bag at the bottom. Maybe I'm trying too hard with the darts. I don't know. I mean, I can get nice flat curves with a flat bag, But that's not what I want. I want something that's got a bit of depth to it and still curves. But I don't want to put gussets in there. That'll be a video for another day. Thanks for coming along on this journey with me. I hope you've enjoyed this video. And I shall catch you next time. Bye for now.